Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Texas Rattlesnake, the most popular wrestler during the Attitude Era and one of wrestling's most popular stars. Austin was on top of the WWF during his peak, however, just how good were his WrestleMania matches? Which ones are the best? Well, I'm Reese from the Wrestling Hideout, and this is all of Stone Cold Steve Austin's WrestleMania matches, ranked. Number 8, Stone Cold Steve Austin vs. Scott Hall, WrestleMania 18. During the failed NWO invasion of the WWE in 2002, Steve Austin took the fight to Scott Hall with Kevin Nash at ringside. On paper, Hall vs. Austin sounds like a great matchup, however this was a match that happened probably 5 or so years too late. Scott Hall wasn't quite the same wrestler he once was, and just 1 year later Austin would be retiring at WrestleMania, and sadly this shows throughout the match. Austin gets the match going fast, attacking Hall as soon as he's in the ring. Nash helps Hall control the match, but this is the type of match that feels like it would have been better if it was a 2-on-1 handicap match, not a 1-on-1. Sadly, the live crowd aren't into it as much as they would the Rock Hogan later in the show as well, but it does feature possibly the greatest Stone Cold Stunner Cell ever by Scott Hall. Number 7, Stone Cold vs. Savio Vega, WrestleMania 12. The $1 Million champion Stone Cold Steve Austin took on Savio Vega with Ted DiBiase in tow on a show headlined by the iconic Bret Hart vs. Shawn Michaels 60-minute Iron Man match. The match starts with pretty good brawling, fast pace before quickly heading outside the ring. This is a match that does pretty well of telling the story of how much these guys dislike each other, that quickly gets disrupted in favour of telling more of the story of Goldust versus Roddy Piper and their Hollywood brawl. Now that's a theme that will run throughout the match as much as the theme of Austin working over Vega's arm. The match then ends with a ref bump, interference by the $1 Million Man, and Austin using the belt to hit Vega. Sadly, this is a match that seemed to have a lot more potential that was made to be just pure filler, and that feeling is only extended by so much focus being placed on the hot rod. Number 6, Steve Austin vs. Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 14. My favourite wrestler of all time, the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, defended the World Championship against Stone Cold Steve Austin with Mike Tyson as special enforcer, just 2 years after Austin's first ever WrestleMania match. A match with the odds stacked against Austin, with even the King stating, if Austin can get through Michaels, get through DX, get through Mike Tyson, then he'll become champion. Michaels and Austin showcased great chemistry, with Michaels starting showing he's quicker than Austin, and Austin in typical fashion getting the crowd riled up by taking out Michaels and DX. The men brawl outside and up the ramp before finally making their way back inside the ring and then back outside the ring. This match is a great passing of the torch from Michaels to Austin, with Michaels' real-life back issues clearly on display and really hindering how good this match could have been. While this isn't the greatest Shawn Michaels match, or even his greatest Mania match by a long mile, Michaels does play the perfect heel for babyface Austin to overcome and claim his first world title. Number 5, Stone Cold Steve Austin vs. The Rock, WrestleMania 19. The final match in the Rock-Austin Mania trilogy, and sadly the worst. After a quick brawling start, the men end up outside the ring, fighting with Austin throwing The Rock around the ring and into the ringside steps. Now once back inside, the men settle into a pretty traditional wrestling match, trading strikes, trading finishes, and even stealing each other's finishes. You can even see The Rock wearing Austin's signature vest for a pretty surreal visual. This match is a much slower pace compared to their previous 2 meetings, and while that is far from a bad thing, I think it doesn't quite make it as good as the previous 2 matches. This was Austin's original retirement match, and having spent the previous night in hospital before the event, he definitely ended his legacy on a high. Until number 4, Steve Austin vs. Kevin Owens, WrestleMania 38. Now you might think it's controversial to rate this match so high, and while it's far from the best wrestling match, it's a pure wild brawl throughout the arena that I don't think many people expected, or expected to be as good as it was. Austin put his wrestling boots on for the first time in 19 years, for a Kevin Owens talk show that quickly turned into the brawl before your eyes. Owens was the perfect opponent for Austin, both on the mic and in the ring, helping enhance the brawling style Austin was so known for later in his career. And to Austin's credit, he takes a few bumps on the outside, such as a suplex onto the ramp I personally never thought I'd see. This is just a pure, fun match that was better than it had any right to be. And sometimes in wrestling, you just need to have a little bit of fun. Number 3, Steve Austin vs. The Rock, WrestleMania 15. Now this is the first of the Rock-Austin WrestleMania trilogy. The men start with a wild brawl that quickly ends up outside the ring and up the entrance ramp. The pop Austin gets from the crowd just shows you how loved he was at the peak of the Attitude Era. And The Rock perfectly plays his role as the young, arrogant heel up against Stone Cold's badass persona. The brawling continues outside the ring for a good majority of the match, and once it makes its way into the ring, it turns into a great wrestling match, full of near falls, trading finishes, and ref bumps. Now, in typical Attitude Era, there's a bunch of runnings before the end of the match, tied into the storyline and the events of the show, but none of this takes away from how great of a match this is. This is very much a shining star on a rather weak WrestleMania, and the perfect showcase of why Austin was so great to be your top guy, and why The Rock would go on to do amazing things inside the squared circle. Number 2, Steve Austin vs. The Rock, WrestleMania 17. The main event of possibly the greatest WrestleMania to date. This featured the second of their WrestleMania trilogy, and by far the best of the 3. Both The Rock and Stone Cold were at the peak of their popularity, and even the iconic My Way video package before the match just adds to this spectacle. Jim Ross and Paul Heyman on commentary work amazing together, and it's a prime showing of just the amazing chemistry they had behind the desk. The match gets announced as a surprise no DQ match, which just tells you you're going to be in for one hell of a ride, and boy do both men deliver in spades. Another match where pretty much the men end up brawling outside the ring and into the crowd. Austin and Rock put on a great match with a little bit of everything for every type of fan. Now the match does end with the famous Austin heel turn and alignment with Mr. McMahon, which fans to this day still seem divided as to whether or not it was a good idea, but overall the match is great. Not only should you go and watch or re-watch this match, but you should just go and sit down and watch the whole full 3-hour show. It's amazing. And number 1, Stone Cold Steve Austin vs. Bret the Hitman Hart, WrestleMania 23 submission match. Was there ever a question what the greatest Stone Cold Steve Austin WrestleMania match is? I really don't think so. Now, this is the greatest Steve Austin WrestleMania match, one of the best Mania matches in total, and one of the most iconic scenes in wrestling history, and even possibly the greatest double turn ever. With MMA legend Ken Shamrock as guest referee before his WWF wrestling appearances, heel Stone Cold Steve Austin takes on the babyface Bret the Hitman Hart, roles that will shift dramatically by the end of the match. Now this features my personal favourite Stone Cold entrance with the literal glass shattering that he walks through, and Stone Cold and Bret Hart put on a 22-minute wrestling masterclass, which just happens to be the longest match on the card, beating out the main event featuring a showdown between The Undertaker and Psycho Sid. The match starts off fast and heated before the Hitman's music has even ended and doesn't let up. Once again, both men leave the ring immediately to brawl outside. Have you noticed the theme yet? And the men brawl into the ring, outside the ring, through the crowd, just adding to the heated rivalry they were having. This match is the perfect Austin brawling style you've come to love, coupled with the Hitman's technical wrestling prowess. The story of Austin beating the hell out of Bret Hart, and Bret Hart working over Austin's limbs, coupled with the carnage of the foreign objects both men would utilise and the blood. This is more than just a wrestling match. This is storytelling at its finest and a must-watch match for fans of any generation. So that was our list. What do you think? And more importantly, which Stone Cold Steve Austin WrestleMania match do you think is the best? Let us know below and let us know which order you would have ranked these matches in. As always, if you haven't already, please drop a like on the video, it helps us amazingly. If you're new and you haven't subscribed but you'd like to, that would also be amazing, we appreciate that to no end, and hopefully, we'll see you in our next video. Bye guys.